just didn't know.
The idea of an intelligent energy that recognizes life, another word for that would be plasma.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Plasma is recognized as the fourth state of matter. It was about 1983, I believe June of 1983 in Moscow. Scientists from all over the world all gathered to discuss whether or not they would accept plasma as that fourth state of matter. Mm-hmm. Because there were some that still were holding off, saying they didn't believe it was a state of matter. Well, after many weeks of arguing, they all concluded that plasma is in fact the fourth state of matter and should be recognized for that. They had then another week of lectures on plasma that went on, and the book of Al Bateman and super high frequency plasma generators was created there. One of the scientists that got up drew a picture. If you looked at that book, I think it's on about page 26, there's a picture of what he said was what the other scientists were saying was a plasma generator. And what they were saying was that as the plasma or fuel vapor is fed up into the tube, it has to be sealed off here and then put under a high amount of pressure and then bombarded with electrons so that when it was released at the other end, the new plasma fuel would come out and burn very efficiently. Well, one of the 600 scientists at that conference said, I believe you're all wrong. I believe if you use a vacuum to pull it into the chamber, that it would generate its own plasma field.
Hi, welcome to AllDayLive, and I am WillPWilson. This is the AllDayLive program. We broadcast from the Northwest here in Seattle, Northwest Washington State, Western Washington. But we're on public access Seattle Community Media during the week, and we have the great honor today to be able to have a talk with one of the great pioneers of all time in technology. I had having a chance now to talk to a person I have had the greatest admiration and respect for, Paul-Pantone. Paul, it's very good, very incredible to hear you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
And I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to be able to have a chance to talk with you, I'm sure. So we'll give them a chance to at least hear from you right now. And I've got you up in the background off of YouTube so people know that that's you that they're listening to. And you mentioned, as I was writing up the credentials for the bottom of the screen, GEET International, G-E-T I-N-T-E-R-N-A-T-I-O-N-A, I'll never spell it, it's international, and .com. And tell us about that.
Well, I started GEET International because we tried to sell kits, and we tried to sell things for cars and generators, and every time we tried to sell a product, our great government would find some way of shutting my doors, threatening me and threatening my family. So we decided we wanted to find a good, clean approach where the government would leave us alone so we could get the knowledge out. And the only way we could do that was to teach it. So we started teaching in 2000, and I've been teaching ever since. We've had students from NASA and a whole other student bodies from all the universities from all over the world. They come in, they're learning advanced plasma physics, and they're finding that the laws of thermodynamics do not necessarily apply in the same manner as they do to the first three states of matter, because the fourth state of matter operates a little bit differently. So they are the flaws of thermodynamics.
Really interesting. As I've seen a gentleman named Jack Cox, who's a very old friend and associate of mine out here, learned how to build one of the plasma engines, and we showed it on AllDayLive about 4 years ago. Filmed it up at Jack's shop up north, and great display of technology. It worked. It actually ran, and plus we showed some segments of some of your YouTubes, showing this technology. It's but instead of the system respecting you and admiring you for your great knowledge and contribution, they just look at us as a threat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The 1951 National Security Act was put in place by Congress and unanimous vote on that one. They did not want inventors getting anything out past the government. So if they can control all the patents and see that anything that's applied for that's better than 50 to 60% more efficiency will be seized, and the public just won't get it.
Amazing, isn't it? It's just like what they did with Dr. Brown in his research, Brown's gas or hydroxy gas. And then Gary Hawkins, Frank Stasny, and Michael Manaville, Mike did really most of the actual work. We all contributed in scientific effort to create the patents. It was affiliated with the Keller catalytic process. And we were able to neutralize the nuclear proton and verified it by 40 universities, as George Wiseman, Eagle Research, has also helped out a great deal. And then we're in a circumstance now, let's say that I call it the nuclear crime syndicate, now is about to exterminate the entire human race. How does that work?
Well, they've been playing games with the people for so long that people don't know what's true anymore. When I first invented this back in 1983 and I had my first working model, I really thought I would be up for some kind of a national award, something. So when I called Greenpeace, Sierra Club, all these big organizations, and I got the same response from all of them. We're not looking for solutions. We want donations. Solutions put us out of business. And that really did make sense.
Yeah.
Of course they don't want solutions. Do the politicians want solutions and better mileage and zero pollution? Absolutely not. They get a lot of money, contributions made by oil companies, car companies, and other big buddies. So no, they don't want solutions. They want to keep you broke. If they can keep you broke and every penny that goes in your wallet ends up going back into theirs, they're happy.
Yeah, not amazing. Just amazing.
So when I was up there a couple of years back, 10 years ago in Bellingham, we stayed at the Hampton Inn, and ABC News came out and did about a 4 or 5 minute special on me. It became so popular the TV station was getting requests. Can you please replay that on the news? Well, they should have cut the tail end of it off, but they didn't. Because it said at the very end of that news clip, if you want to see the inventor Paul-Pantone, come on over to the Hampton Inn. He'll be there this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Amazing.
So people were showing up 2 and 3 weeks later and staying at the hotel waiting to meet me.
Yeah.
And they were getting all upset at me because I was on the news. I said, hey, I only did the one show one time. I didn't know they were going to keep replaying it. But we've always had a great audience. I mean, up in Seattle, if we just did a 20, 30-second spot on a radio show saying we were in town, we'd always draw 50 to 150 people.
Oh, yeah.
It was that easy.
Yeah. Well,
and as we toured the country, some of the cities, we could do a 1-hour TV special, and we wouldn't get one person come out.
Yeah.
It's that sad. I mean, they come out and go, well, this is bad for the economy. You know, we're a nation that needs oil. Well, let's not use the oil. Let's have engines that run cleaner. But it's against the law in the United States to get more than that 50% to 60% increase. But I'm allowed to teach it in a classroom. So we have a lot of fun teaching.
I bet. Yeah. Well, in a sense, that's what you're in the classroom right now. We just got a kind of a more spread out classroom. Many people listening. We have about 800,000 people here in the Northwest that watch the show. And I've been told we broadcast to over 140 countries and have over 35 million that watch us overseas. That's what I was told. Just so you know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've done a few other big shows, not bigger, but big shows.
Yeah.
And I was told that when you do something like this, you can expect maybe 1 to 3% of your audience to go to your website.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple of them where they said, well, out of 3 million people, you might get a couple 100,000. And then when I called them back a few days later and said, no, we had over 1 million. So if a third of the people listening to these radio shows and TV shows want the knowledge,
right,
why aren't the politicians willing to do it? Because they don't want to go against the big brother, the oil companies.
All they are, crime syndicates disguised as banking and industry, but they're just crime syndicates. That's all they are. We learned the hard way. Look what they do to us. They don't know what the word respect means. I do, and your listeners do, and we're greatly honored. This is a great honor. As far as the GEET type technology, what does GEET abbreviate?
It's Global Environmental Energy Technology, and the short version of that, GEET, I did not know at the time we picked the name, is in Hindu in Pakistan the celebration of the aroma that God gave the flowers. So it's a springtime festival for a week long.
Really?
And many people throughout the world have said the exhaust coming out of a GEET engine when it's properly tuned smells like fresh flowers.
Wow.
So we did pick the right name.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting how that all works. I know that you've done a lot to not only help people learn themselves in this time period. We're in a critical time. This nuclear contamination, not only from up here in the Northwest from the firing range, blow off of nuclear depleted uranium particulate from the munitions, but now you've got the Fukushima event and probably over several million barrels of nuclear waste dumped in the North Atlantic by the Russians, and hundreds of thousands of them dumped right off our west coast here. Now they're wondering why all the starfish are dying or died.
Yeah.
This technology, that the GEET technology, as in Brown's gas and hydroxy gas, will also play a part in also helping clean this mess up if they want it to, but they don't want to.
But, well, if you go to my website, GEETinternational.com,
Okay,
there's a clip there. Here's a clip there that we shot for, I think it was CBS News in San Francisco area, where we were running the engine on crude oil and salt water. And when we went down to help down there in Louisiana, we were told that the Gulf spill was not our problem and get away from their beach.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have offered to use the GEET technology in Fukushima, over in Chernobyl, and other areas, and we were told they are not interested.
Isn't that amazing? Just
Yeah.
amazing.
I asked permission through a church trip that was trying to help all the people from Katrina years ago. Would it be all right to get permission just to build one or two big generators just to run on salt water, no fuel? Would they give us permission? And, of course, FEMA said absolutely not. If one of the GEET units show up at any of our facilities, we will not give them food or water.
Amazing. Just
So
amazing.
what are they afraid of? Well, I think what they're afraid of is clean air.
Well,
no oil.
it's like this is like a planetary death wish, or at least it's herded sheeples being led by carnivoric loams that control the banking system that seem to have mass genocide is their answer to see what we're seeing. And here are people with remedy, and yet they put you in jail, they steal your house, they destroy your family, they hit you with microwave weapons, put chemical lobotomy in your drink. I mean, it goes on and it goes on, and they don't show you respect for who you are and what you do. I mean, my gosh, you think that they would do that? I mean, holy smokes. Yet in the meantime, the planet's going, mass murder, mass death, die-offs, it's like I mentioned that I had Tyler Hoff of HempAware Radio and Larry Serban, he's hemptraders.com, on with a Raymond Barner, who's one of the developers of CoolTraderPro.com. It's a robotic trading software that guarantees 8% return per month. And trying to get them to help see how can we map out integrating these future types of markets for trading, mainly because hemp may be one of the few protein sources we may have as a people to consume now that all the seafood is being contaminated. I mean, it's like, hello. I mean, are you people awake? You know what I mean?
No, you've got to wonder, are they awake? I went to one show up there in Spokane years ago, and it's funny as heck. It was sponsored by a lot of the car companies, and they all have their booths there, Volvo, Ford, Chrysler. There were about 9 booths. And one after another, these people came over to my booth saying, what does this engine of yours run on? Well, whatever you want to put in the fuel tank. And Dennis Weaver showed up and put in some mango juice and watched it running on that. And he said, I'll be.
Really?
Well, how do you get past EPA? I said, well, EPA is a voluntary organization. I just don't volunteer. Because if you volunteer for that, you're never going to get approval. If it works, they will not approve it.
Can you believe it?
Well, luckily, when I put my word out that I was going to market, we had people from the EPA get a hold of us saying, hey, here's my resume, and whatever you do, don't volunteer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there are some good people still in the government, but not that many. A lot of them think what they're doing is right, and they really believe their job is fruitful, and they're doing what they're told. But this goes back to the psychological impact of hire a person to do a job and don't let them have any knowledge. Just tell them they're doing a really good job if they do this, and they're going to go do it.
Yeah. Well,
if they knew what they were doing and the big picture, they'd quit doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I know that it's an educational thing because as a people, we have to educate one another. We have to work together as a community, regardless of what these powerful special interests are. That in the same sense, we have to recognize that it's only we're trying to do to help us as a community to survive. And I mean, it's like, if we can, should we not? I mean, why shouldn't we? And then why should we be punished for doing what would be normally expected of a concerned citizen, concerned member of the community? Am I wrong?
Well, it's funny because when I went up to Bellingham that one trip a few years back, and they filmed it in the news, the guy that was supposed to do the anchor on that, he brought his own scientists out from one of the universities here in Bellingham. And he brought 3 scientists out, and when he said, well, this is what I want you to look at, they said, oh, we've already got one of these at home we're playing with. All 3 of them had built their own GEET.
Wow.
Right off the free plans off the internet. They already had up and working models. So instead of having any friction saying it doesn't work, here I got 3 guys that are top in their line saying, oh, no, it works great. We're having a ball with it. It breaks every rule in the book. I mean, who'd have thought you could put sugar in a gas tank and run an engine?
For real.
So it throws their rules out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in another sense, it's also how they want us to define the laws of physics, especially in the principles of interferometry or infrared spectrometry, let's say. It's like even Colonel Tom Bearden trying to address the Fukushima TEPCO people, mentioning that they can develop scalar technology that could have already neutralized that entire nuclear thermopile, that nuclear mess, and they didn't even listen to him.
Nope.
Not even. And yet, it's like, here's all this answers, and yet they don't want remedy. It's like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I don't know, but I do know that enough people are going to listen to you that you'll be teaching future teachers on this technology, right?
That's exactly what I teach.
Yes.
We teach people that want to be dealers. They can go back to their own country and or their own cities and teach in their own community. We probably got 400 or 500 people up there in the Washington area that would like to come to school, but they can't afford the trip down here. They can't afford to buy the dealership, so they're waiting until somebody opens up there, and then they'll all flood in to see them.
Wow. What would it take if we want to get something going here? Let's say I've been doing some broadcasts with people that are developing software for high-speed robotic, high-interest gaining trade. You know, I've got the cannabis and hemp people. They would probably be interested. I've mentioned that the Brown's gas energy technology, as George Wiseman has found, it's superhydrated water. It's also, once it's gone through the plasma state, it's now nuclear-free. What you've done is basically take that a step farther. It's technology that can provide for people to survive what's happening. Not just for
we have survival technology, yes.
Yeah.
One of the examples I gave the 3 German scientists that came in from the University of Berlin, they had a little bit of an attitude when they first got here because I'm a 9th grade dropout, and here they have PhDs. So they made it real clear I had to call them doctors. And I said, fine, not a problem.
Okay.
They wanted the best demo I could give them, so I took an aluminum can and about 1.5 inches of battery acid in a 1-gallon jar, dropped the can in there and pulled the vapor off it and ran an engine. Now, if you can run a 10-horsepower engine for 5.5 hours off one aluminum can, what's that can worth?
That's amazing. Totally amazing.
Yeah. The same value as 5.5 gallons of gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it took over 6 hours before that finally settled in on their brain what they were looking at. And then I said, now what's this can worth? And they started laughing and go, you can afford to pour whatever's in there out on the ground, just use the can. Uh-huh.
That's good, Paul. That's good. It does, even with those high intelligent and doctorate level, they still have time to, they can't accept it. It doesn't register.
Well, Dr. Su from China, he came in from Beijing, and he said what he'd done for 25, 30 years over there was working on a 7-mile circle underground. And he said, what you do with parts worth 25 cents outperforms what we do for billions of dollars. He says, the funny thing is, yours keeps working. Ours will only work for a few milliseconds.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Dr. Bob Beck figured out how to track down the Russian ELF frequencies called the woodpecker frequency they're sending through the planet. The DOD couldn't figure it out, and he sat down at his kitchen table in 2 hours figured it out. You know, I mean, what is this with having to spend fortunes to do what? To accomplish what? It just doesn't make sense. And they've given you no help financially, have they?
We asked for donations in 1999 when I put the free plans up, and we ended up getting $105 out of the United States. All the rest of the donations have come from Europe, Africa, India, Pakistan, China, and Russia.
Wow.
They have more appreciation for what I've done in foreign countries than all of America put together.
Right. As Dr. William B. Mount, I'd love to have him on sometime and have him help interview you. Dr. William B. Mount posts on the apfn.org message news board, and he kind of says the same thing you say. It makes so much sense. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Yep.
I can't believe what I'm seeing, what this country has become. I just can't. It's just unbelievable. So we're getting people that are going to be building this technology. There's no, anyone can do it, right? Anyone can do it.
We've had kids that are 10, 12 years old do it, and we've had some run it just on pickle juice and Windex. The plans on the internet are the worst plans I ever built that barely work, but yes, it will show you how to build it.
Wow.
If they want to spend the $350 and they get my help, I'll walk them through a small engine for education, then a generator, and then one car. They can't use it for commercial application, but for personal use, we can legally teach that. And they can do that right on my website for a $350 donation.
Wow. And it's the GEET Institute, which is on YouTube. That's your YouTube. I've got that here. It's showing this in the background. And then, do you want me to show the GEET demo in the background here? Or got plenty of stuff here. I mean, we're educating them as they're getting to know you again, which is a great honor. Like
thousands of videos, yes.
Yeah.
We had a hacker from the Philippines get a hold of me, and he checked me out in about 30 different languages, in Russian and Arabic and everything else, and he said, "You're on about 8 million websites, pal. How'd you do it?" Well, very few of those are U.S.
Well,
there's only about 40 or 50,000 links here in the U.S. Almost all of it is foreign.
Amazing. Well, somebody thinks you're doing the right thing, I think. You think?
There's always going to be at least 1 out of 1,000 that got to jump up and down and say, "Oh, he's mean. He won't give me a generator," or "He's mean. He won't let me just have a dealership."
Right.
No,
right.
I'm sorry. I've got to buy food and, pay the bills. And this week is so bad. I don't know if we're going to have internet services here at the house for the next week or two because the income just hasn't been here.
Wow.
If I was to open in a foreign country, I'd be able to operate 7 days a week and classes 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I've tried to keep it here in America to help my people first.
Yeah.
The interest just isn't here.
Well, there is, but it's very well hidden. It's like during the election period here, my show, I've been on 10 years, and whoever comes on the TV program, they don't let it know they're watching, but whoever comes on my show always wins. Don't ask me. I was homeless here for 10 years, and the homeless guy controlling state politics is quite amazing. After they took I founded 7 NASDAQ companies and 5 international science foundations, and that's how they say thank you. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
If you're not part of their, so I look at it as they're a giant satanic coven. I'm saying like it is. They are.
Yeah.
And what else can you expect from it? But we're going to go into the next segment here in just 4 minutes. If I'm going to try to technology, where do I start? Where do I start?
You can buy the plans for $350 and then build one.
Okay.
After you built it, if you want to become a dealer but you're not quite sure, we say come on down to school. You're going to spend the $3,500 to come here and spend a week. In 4.5, 5 days, you're going to learn how to build a gate. You're going to learn how to pull electricity out of the air and out of the ground. We're going to show you how to use plastic as a fuel and aluminum and a few other things. And when we're all done, then we give you the option, do you really want to be a dealer? Dealerships are 40 grand, and we require 10%, or I'm sorry, a total of 10,000 down, which is 25%.
Okay.
And that also includes what you paid for your school and for the plan. So it comes out that you're not going to lose anything but your time to be there to decide, do you want to go out and teach? Because you can't legally put it on anyone's car other than your own. You can't put it on generators and sell them. As long as you get 50% or less, you can do it. But if you get more than a 50% improvement, they're going to nail you.
Right, right.
Now, some of the dealers pushed that window a little too far and started talking about getting triple and 4 times your mileage. They got put out of business.
Interesting. But this is only just one of the technologies that you've developed,
Oh,
right?
I've got 650 inventions.
Jeez.
What field do you want to play in? Want to take somebody out of a coma? We got that up our sleeve, too.
That's amazing. Well, I know that it's going to be important what you have conveyed for us to survive with this nuclear contamination. It's more serious than anybody realizes. And they don't understand that there won't be water to drink because it'll saturate the entire water system of not just the oceanic areas, but all fresh water. And maybe, what are we going to have? Like I mentioned, Brown's gas. Your technology will do the same thing, right? Neutralize the nuclear proton. I mean, this is important. This is very important. We got a couple of more minutes, and we're going to go into a quick segment, and we'll be back for our second half hour here in just a minute.
I'm going to give you something to chuck flat here during that break.
Okay.
Think about it. Think about how much pollution a car puts out in a day, and then think about how much pollution your road puts out in a day. Because when we tarped off a 20-foot by 20-foot area of asphalt with a black tarp, we could run a generator off those vapors. There's that much pollution coming from the asphalt. So which pollutes more, the cars or the roads?
Isn't that amazing? Just amazing.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is.
But we could have roads that don't put pollution out and that last longer and that don't need to be worked on. But that means we don't need their stinking oil.
Well, Stu Webb goes into some pretty fantangled ways about us. We've had Leo Wanda and other unique people on AllDayLive this last few weeks. I'm looking forward to Stu being on this program, probably coming up, Paul. He's something else.
Okay.
That guy, he's a fighter. Okay, we'll be back here in just a minute, everyone. Thanks for watching AllDayLive. Paul, this is a great honor. It's one of my greatest honors. And we'll be back in just a few seconds. Hold on, everybody.
He was laughed off the stage and asked to leave the conference. It was so preposterous. But the same week that was happening in Moscow, I built the first blue engine, which is up against the wall over here, and it did run with a vacuum, and it was self-generated. I just didn't know it was called a plasma generator for 10 years.
Gee. Let's talk about how the GEET fuel processor actually works and what it does and the principle behind it.
Well, it's an acceleration chamber. Dr. William Su made the comparison back in about 1996, 97. He worked 20 years of his life on a 7-mile circle underground in Beijing. And when he came over and looked at ours, he held up the rod that's in the center of it that makes it all work, and he says, what you do for 25 cents, we do for billions of dollars. The big difference is yours works.
You're talking about an acceleration
A
chamber.
nuclear accelerator. You found a way of accelerating the molecules and exciting them and exchanging heat in such a way that you can break it down. It's a total transmutation of elements. You're able to produce hydrogen and helium from crude oil. And you release all of these elements in an electrical field that's self-generated. We can't do that. Now, here is...
Hey everyone, we're back. Glad you're watching. I'm listening. I hope you're watching too, and I'm trying to listen as much as you are, I hope. But Paul-Pantone, one of the great, premier, legendary scientific contributors of our time, our lives. It was like Stanley Meyer when he was developing the Brent Brown's gas.
Oh, that's heartbreak, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, you knew Stanley, didn't you? Stanley Meyer.
We only got to talk one time on a telephone call, and it was just before he took his trip coast to coast. And when he told me he was going to drive coast to coast, I said, hey, pal, I disassembled my Cadillac when everybody was scared to death that if I was running on water, they were going to kill me. So I got rid of it. And if I were you, I wouldn't push this on the news. And he said, oh, no, Jesus is going to protect me. I said, well, you may be meeting him a lot sooner than you think.
Yeah, for real, yeah.
I wish I'd have been wrong.
I know. It's sad that the circumstance, he lectured at one of our Puget Sound Weird Science Club meetings at my property I did have, just shortly before he passed on. And I had quite a number of our Northwest Weird Science group here, a lot of them leading physicists and scientists, quite a number of people. And we had a chance to at least be able to appreciate his great contribution before he did pass on. What a great man, great legend.
Yeah. Well, there have been many. I mean, if you look at Charles Pogue, I mean, he was one of the beginners back in the 30s. High mileage carburetor. Right after him, we ended up with Tom Ogle, the Fisher. I mean, the list of different inventors who had things that worked that all disappeared or their product did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is amazing, it's like this agenda that these people have. I don't know if we'd call them people, but whoever they are. Their agenda is not, it's so blatant about what they do. It's not like they could just come to you and say, what can we do to work with you? You know, what can we, I mean, you know, you'd think that they would think that way, but they don't. They don't.
Well, years ago, I told Hugh Johnson of Johnson & Johnson Products, I told him at my dad's house in Beverly Hills, I said, if I had a penny, just a penny for every piece of equipment on the planet that uses fuel, I wouldn't be able to spend it all.
I know.
I mean, I don't need to be greedy. Let's just get it out there and create a lot of new jobs.
Yeah.
We could have cars getting 100, 200 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
But first you have to have a government that wants them. Sorry about that.
Well, you know when I was working with Dr. Brown down at Southwest Concrete, about 1993, he was down the hallway screaming and yelling and slams the phone down, and he came back into the area. And I asked him, so what happened? He said, well, that was Bagnew Brzezinski, and he just ordered me to cease all my research. And he yelled at him and swore at him in Bulgarian and told him, you know, and slammed it down. Well, the second that he put that phone receiver down, they sent in apparently NSA operatives that dusted his apartment with plutonium powder, and he died. That's when he died in 1999 from that contamination. That's how they treat you. That's how much they have respect for one of the greatest heavy water physicists in history. Truly one of the greatest and one of the most dedicated American scientific pioneers with what he'd gone through. You couldn't comprehend that someone would have to go through something like that. You just why? What I mean, what for? What kind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see it over and over again. Paul, in the future, as we want to do some more programs and start exploring how we can get your ability to teach people how to survive this Fukushima event. Let alone we're going to have 9.2 earthquakes coming up. That's a given. Everybody knows that. People are going to have this technology to survive. Starting with, let's say, using it in your car, using it in your house. Can you use it like in a shop to come up with, develop new types of steel and materials like Brown's gas? I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? Give us an idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we need to learn about shops and metal. There's secrets that have been kept from mankind forever, except by the people that held them. And the inventors didn't like sharing it. So we're trying to put together the first science book, which I'm working on now. But I figured it's going to cost me about $100,000 to get it done. I've made 181 discoveries so far that I can't find in a science book.
Yeah, I know.
So if we can get this out to people who really care, then they could see how to apply this to anything that uses fuel on the entire planet.
Right.
That's a pretty broad range.
Yeah.
But it also means a lot of different things are fuel that have never been thought of as fuel before.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that people just haven't had their backs to the wall yet to realize. Of course, they always come running at the last moment or when it's too late. And yet, I was mentioning several good friends of mine here were the directors of metal machine shop here in the local Seattle community colleges in Seattle. And he said that the established order put the people in charge of the administration over these machine shops. People know nothing about machine shop engineering or anything. And now only one high school in Seattle carries machine shop and only one college. And the party that runs it, according to this party that was in charge of it at one time, meaning doing the hands-on educating, he said, since they don't know anything about machine shop, we're not educating anybody in this field anymore in Seattle.
Yep.
Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah.
No more hands-on technology.
No.
Unbelievable. And, it just defies logic. I know it's frustrating, especially from somebody that has so much to share and teach. It's got to be really frustrating, Paul. I mean,
Well, our new school over in Switzerland, which should be opening in about 2 months, but right now they're having a problem getting anything made in Switzerland because the wages in that state are too high, or the country, so they're going to have to go over to Poland, Romania, other areas to get the parts made, and then bring them home.
Yeah. And so, the whole idea is that if they're going to have to create parts, and it's too, and this gets beyond belief. Well, the Pantone technology, GEET technology, can be used to come up with new types of materials and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Give us an idea, quick on that, about like new materials, new applications.
Well, I do. I have a couple of new products there that we can't talk about yet because we have to get them copyright protected, and we don't really want the big boys to know how to do it yet. But we do have some things here. We found we could make an MRI machine for under $300.
Wow.
Oops.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say 300 million. Darn.
Jesus.
Oh well, that's going to get a few people upset.
Yeah.
We've got an X-ray unit that we could build for under 300. We can create a tornado right in your classroom. If you want to study tornadoes, you can study them without getting hurt.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive all over the country with millions of dollars worth of equipment. Study in a nice, quiet lab.
Yeah.
So all the discoveries I've made on how to control a tornado and how to start one and stop one, all of this could be put into universities, but chances are they will not hit U.S. universities.
Amazing. Yeah. So in a sense, it's going to be by circumstance by historical ramifications that people will be forced to have to learn because the system gave up, meaning we can't trust our system. We're going to have to do it ourselves. We're going to have to contact the certain ways and people and sources and this and that to be able to have the knowledge, the ability to have to be allowed to survive. I mean,
well, we have so much interest in sports and things that really do not better mankind. It makes you feel good for a few minutes, an hour or so, that's fine. But I sat with a lot of football players in the high school area in the community where I used to live in California. And some of these kids on the football team couldn't spell. They
Right.
couldn't read past about fourth grade level. It was like, how the heck are you on a football team? Don't you have to have passing grades? Well, the teachers give us A's and B's. And you don't have to work. You don't have to read. You don't have to write. No, just show up for class.
Yeah.
Our priorities are really not in the right place.
Yeah, I know.
Education is not as big as it should be in this country.
I know. It should be a lot more, and it's like whatever it is that somebody creates the norm. What is that norm? What is you've created whole new realms of norms.
When we teach people that you don't have to have deja vus, they have the funniest look on their face. Well, I have them all the time. Well, that's because as a child, normally you were told not to share things. Do not share your dreams. Do not talk about them when you wake up. A deja vu is nothing more than reliving the experience that you already dreamt.
Yeah.
Now, if you need to relive it so that you know what it feels like to have that broom handle hit you in the head, go ahead and do it. I prefer not having broom handle or shovel handle hit me in the head. So I learn from my dreams. And when I wake up from a dream, I write down what the dreams were. And lo and behold, I see a lot of things in my dreams that are going to happen in 6 months to a year, 2 years, and sometimes it's directly involved with someone that I've been with. So I may know exactly what's going to happen to you on a given date and time. If I dare tell you that, you're going to think I'm crazy, or when it does happen, now you're going to think I'm horrible because I created it.
Yeah. Real quick, what are some of the most asked questions about the GEET technology? Just give us a run. Like what do people usually ask you the most in the lectures?
Can I use any kind of metal? Because the free plans say use only ferrous metal.
Okay.
I got tired of answering hundreds of calls every day and people asking silly questions. I don't mind if you're calling up for a specific, can this fit my 64? It'll fit any and all vehicles, any type of equipment that uses fuel. The problem is, if it is computer operated, it's still going to be computer operated. I can't bypass it. So if you've got a computer operated car, it's government controlled. I don't want to even touch it. I'd much rather work on one with a carburetor because then it cannot be controlled.
Right.
It cannot be shut off. And what's really funny is when you see a mechanic turn the key off in the ignition and the engine's still running. They'll get out and they'll pull all the spark plug wires loose and it's still running. They don't know how to shut it off. They don't know the first thing about a GEET.
Amazing. Yeah. That as you see these people actually, it's like when Jack Cock built his Pantone plasma engine, and it ran perfect. It was a miracle. We did, and you see these people actually succeed at doing it, and then it works. And it's amazing, and it's like, oh my goodness, and it's real.
We had a class 3 years ago, and there were two little black girls in it, 13 and 15.
Wow.
And these two little girls took 3 of my engines apart while all the guys in the class watched. And we just kept the class going, and the girls were listening while we were working. And after they took them apart and put them all back together, we had them start the engines up. These little girls understood what they did. The guys who were mechanics, some of them couldn't figure out why it ran. So while they're sitting here trying to figure out how come it's running, the little girls are saying, okay, what's next? We all run at different speeds.
Yep. Yeah. So these fellas, it's a thinking thing, right?
Yep.
It's always a thinking thing. It's how we see. It's like explaining infrared spectrometry to people. How is it that we see certain things? How could we observe or know from how we haven't been there to be able to know, to see? But now, a few people are pointing things out. Meaning, you're pointing this out. As far as the circumstances of why you weren't back on Coast to Coast AM again with George Norrie, what happened there?
Well, we began talking about running cars on water and things like that because that's what's keeping me alive right now is the fact that if anything does happen to me, those plans are my final gift to mankind. And he was asking, would it be possible to buy those plans? I said, no, we don't sell those. So those are handed out to people that we trust, and they're in safe places around the world. So if anything happens to me, they will be on every church seat, every prayer blanket. They'll be passed door to door. They'll be all over the internet.
Yeah.
I want to leave my final farewell something that they remember.
Well, yeah. What else can you do? I know what you're saying, Paul. It's like, do we ever get credit for all that we've sacrificed for? I know that you've sacrificed more than anyone.
3.5 years I was tortured in Utah. They drilled out all my teeth and said, "Hey, just sign your patent over. Sign your patent over." Nope.
Can you believe that in this country?
Oh yeah.
I just can't believe it. I mean, it's like.
If you want to see the criminal side of what happened, you could go to the other GEET site, which somebody else put up, not me, and it's GEET Friends, GEET Friends.net. And the tape recordings of crooked attorneys, when they admit, yeah, I knew where you were, I lied to the judge.
Amazing.
And the judge who says, I really don't care about the Constitution in my courtroom, I make the law. So, when you have judges like that, and they're above the law, you can't sue them. Because in Utah, even the higher level in the federal court happens to have the same club.
Yeah.
And you can't get past them.
Isn't that insane? Just amazing.
So even though state law said they couldn't hold me or detain me for more than a year and a half, they held me for 3.5 and tortured me while I was at it. And I realized that there was no getting out unless I played my cards right.
Can you believe that? And yet, really, in a sense, you do have independent media, independent journalism, alternative reporting people that can at least let the world know that this is going on. But now Dianne Feinstein wants to make it so that independent reporting can't even be allowed unless they authorize it. Can you believe that?
I do. Of course they don't want people like you out there talking, or me.
Yeah, amazing.
They have to spread rumors that we work for the other side.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was going to mention, we've got about 10 minutes. What is it? How could somebody use this technology to start helping them drink purified, clean water free of nuclear contamination? Now that the rainfall is going to be saturated with it, they're going to have clean, fresh water. The GEET technology can provide that, right?
Yes.
And it's nuclear free.
By running it still with the electric hot plate.
Okay.
You boil the water out.
Okay.
Then you capture it and then run it through the field. If you run it through the field, it will kill any radioactive material that we've found going through that field.
Wow. Really? So is there a display of that online that they can go learn about? Not yet?
No.
Not yet.
No, we're not. There's so much stuff we had up there we had to pull down. We have a bunch of letters up there from scientists all over the world that come in and test it. And one after another, the scientists were calling up saying, hey, if you don't pull my stuff down, I'm going to lose my credentials. I can't teach next year.
Wow.
So when all the dealers and other people get threatened, your own family gets threatened, you lose wives, you lose kids. They'd rather be free and away from you.
Oh, yeah. That's what I went through. Destroy your marriage, let you see your children, the same old thing, I don't know. But it's almost like this is like their enjoyment to torture people like us.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had an inventor call me up about 30, 60 days ago, and he said that he got broke into a few times, and I said, and did they find drugs in your house after that? He said, yeah, they did. I said, yep. And they're going to make you look totally delusional. Then they're going to throw you in a nut house for a while, or just seize everything you have, and they're going to run you out of business. When I told him, they go after wives and things like that. He said, well, my wife just left me. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, you've still got a few other things they're getting ready to do. So I gave them a heads up on what they were going to do and the order they were going to do it in.
Do you think there's anywhere on planet Earth where a person of your incredible honor and integrity could find respect, where they would respect you for who you really are? Is there anywhere on this planet? I mean,
well, I know if I go over to Russia, I'd have a lot of friends that are probably KGB. In China and Japan, they have their own little clubs. Every country has their own clubs.
Right.
And it seems as though the people with those type clubs are the ones that run things. So where on the earth, I don't know. When we talked about taking this into Uganda, we thought it'd be great because those people can't afford much. They don't have paved roads. Gas is $19.80 a gallon in some areas. And the government said, no. That's all road tax.
Yeah.
We don't want you touching our money.
Yeah.
Don't improve the mileage. We want people to use gas.
Yeah. It's amazing. Just amazing.
So right now, Russia, India, Pakistan, there's a few countries that would like to get better mileage.
Yeah, but then again, with the global earthquakes and earth changes and ISONs and ENKIs and all this other stuff happening, and now biowarfare and chemtrails, and it doesn't stop, it's not going to be the kind of world we all think it's going to be. Even these people that think they're in power, and as Dr. William B. Mount has mentioned, they're too busy blowing up their underground research facilities with each other in it as well. That's how warped they are. As far as let's say in the future, somebody wants to go hands-on, just go to the website. I can show that back here in the background. Where in the website do you want people to go when they get there? I've got it up.
No, they need to just get a hold of me direct. If they want to come down to class for hands-on, they need to call me up and find out what my schedule is, because it is subject to change at any time. We're just about done building 250 kW generators here. Once those are up and running, I am not going to have much time for any more training in the U.S. because we're going to be flooded with people from all over the world wanting to come in and learn how to build these and go home and start having power. Some of the people in Pakistan are complaining they only have electricity 2 or 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, can you believe
So-
that? Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
As far as young people today, there's nobody creating a way for them to have a career. I've got quite a number of them that I'm coaching to become media people, and they're starting to kind of listen, because there's a need for that. And we can create, with 2,700 public access groups, we could broadcast nationwide, worldwide, and online and archive now. Our shows are all archived. This one will be. That would create a way for young people to be able to support themselves and their families, because there's really nothing being done to do that for them now
No.
at all. And so it's like, this all makes so much sense. It all makes total sense. I can't, and that you hear somebody that's going to try and create a way for people to support themselves and their community and survive, and they sabotage you. I mean,
years ago, I donated the 4 or 5 pinball machines they needed for a community thing where they could put a pinball place in next to the grocery store and give the kids something to do after school. It didn't even last 30 days. They came in and shut it down. They fined the guy that owned the building, and they sued the guy running the place. I mean, they just made life miserable, saying, we don't want nice things in the communities for kids.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's like trying to help a homeless man. In some areas, that's a state law now, or city law, where it's a felony.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Amazing.
can't gather your own rainwater from your roof.
Yeah.
We had one of our students the other day was saying that the utility company came out and wanted to put a smart meter on his electric grid, and he's completely off the power grid. He says, what the hell do you want to know my usage for? Well, we need to put a meter in anyway. So what are you putting a meter on my property for? Because you're using sunlight you didn't pay the government for.
Yeah.
Well, that's like saying, hey, you got a homeschool. Okay, that means any law that applies to the school applies to your home. Do you have any alcohol, guns, tobacco, knives, or anything within 1,000 yards of your teaching area?
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about working with universities? Have you had any success working with any of the university
I have been
departments?
rushed out of university so fast it isn't funny. Baptist, the Mormon, BYU, one after another, they said, we can't have you on campus. We'll lose all of our grant money. We'll lose our credentials if you're here.
Really?
Yeah, the government controls every damn school. Even though you think it's a Christian school or Baptist college or Lutheran college, no, it's a government college.
Amazing. Land grant. Yeah, all based on that.
Yeah.
When's your next seminar coming up?
Oh, I do them all the time.
Do you?
We had 2 people in last week. We're hoping to get somebody in here in the next day or two, but we usually have 3-day to 5-day classes offered year-round.
Okay. And then
And they're all private. They're private. For that kind of money, you're going to learn everything you can while you're here.
yeah. Amazing.
I'm going to go at your speed. Now, I reach into my box of 650 other inventions, and it depends on where you're at. I may throw a few other things at you. If you're in a cold climate and you need heat, I'll throw a few different things at you that aren't GEET, aren't related to GEET in any way. And here's things you can just go home and do.
Amazing, yeah. Amazing. And that stands for Global Environmental Energy Technology, GEET.
Correct.
That's very incredible. Paul, I've admired what you've done to the highest level, to the highest caliber. All they should have done was shown you the greatest respect that they could think of, and that's the last thing they did.
Yeah.
It's makes so much sense. And then, whoever was handling George Norrie on Coast to Coast AM and what made him have to bring up that subject, and yet he claims that he's not handled by others. But then what brought that on?
If he wanted me back on the show that bad and he's had the opportunity to have me back on the show, there's something blocking it.
Oh yeah, that's how
Yeah.
powerful these people are. But the
Yeah.
thing is that we're all inhaling this nuclear material now. It's in our water, it's in our food, you know, and trying to help create a way for people to realize that this cannabis hemp thing in Washington State and Colorado is more serious than just a bunch of recreational drug smokers. And it also not only have to cure cancer, but help remove nuclear contamination from the body, from the soil, from the water. And that it may be one of the last proteins we will have to consume after seafood can no longer be consumed. So it's a lot more serious than people realize. We've got about a minute and a half left. I'd like to be able to have you on again and maybe on with Stu Webb sometime. This is a great honor, Paul. I
Well,
can't tell
you
you.
just give me a call. Let me know when you want to do it. As long as I don't have a student that day, you're on.
Okay, now, just so I get people, the viewers to watch, it's GEET International, and they can go to the website,
Yep.
and there's a huge website. There's a lot of information there. I've got some of your YouTubes up playing right now. I'm looking forward to them to doing that. I'm looking forward to us maybe working together as a community here in the Northwest in Washington to be able to build a group of people here that can learn this and start assuming the role of how it will play a part of helping our community survive. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. I think people out there, you better realize we're in an extinction event. That's a lot more serious than people realize. And it's not just a bunch of people like Russians and Americans and Chinese fighting over two barren islands, the Senkaku Islands, which is absolutely insane. I mean, what else kind of problems can they create while we're trying to solve them, right, Paul? You know?
Oh, they're good at them. Come on.
I think you got my. I don't want to use the word Nobel Peace Prize, but you get, I think, God's universal award for incredible contributions.
That means more to me than getting the Nobel Prize. Based on who they've been giving it to lately, I'd be very insulted if it was offered.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. Well, I think all of us people out here that still believe in God and the spiritual hierarchies that we should abide under, all of us have the highest respect for you, and I'm looking forward to, again, getting you back on because this is a great honor for me. WillPWilson and Paul-Pantone, thank you for everybody watching All Day Live. Paul, soon, okay?
God bless.
God bless you too. Thank you for everything.
Okay.
Goodbye.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye, Paul. Well, that's All Day Live for this segment week, and that's Paul in the background. And you go to GEETinternational.com. Thank you for watching All Day Live this week. I am WillPWilson, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Now, here is back to the rod assembly. This was set up so that you can turn it in any direction you want. You can have the vapor. The exhaust comes out here, final escape over at this point. This is the engine. Now, the opposite direction. So if the exhaust is going up, the fuel vapor has to go down. So this would hook up to a fuel delivery system, whether it's a bubbler, carburetor, injector. Air and fuel go in here, go through the reactor, they get converted to GEET gas by it being accelerated around the rod in the center. And then the new gas coming out is fed into the intake of the engine.
Wow.
We could use garbage on this. We could use wood, coal, a liquid or a solid. Anything that can be vaporized is fuel.